Hey guys, Jacob Wheeler here. One of my favorite techniques in the fall time of year is throwing a frog over heavy vegetation. Now, one of the most notorious lakes in the country is Lake Guntersville for throwing a frog. That's because there's so much grass. There's so much grass, but it can be overwhelming. I mean, this is a pattern that works all over the country, and what I'm looking for is number one, bluegill. I need bait. Now, number two, I'm looking for these mats that are a lot thinner. When you have these really thick mats, that's not a mat you're really gonna want a frog. You wanna see the line of your frog that it's making through that mat. And when you have those two combinations, normally you're gonna find your bass. What I'm looking for is these big giant hydrilla beds. And right here is an example of some hydrilla. This is some fresher hydrilla, and this is gonna be the thickest stuff that you find. It's gonna have a lot of these leaves on it, but when it gets cold, you have these cooler nights, you have a lot more wind, you have a lot more fronts going on in the fall, things cool down. This is what I'm really looking for. I'm looking for the stringy stuff. Now this is still hydrilla. You'll see a couple little strands of it. Right here is a glob of what I'm really keying in on. You can see some of this green stuff, the slime. It's a lot less, it's more stringy, and that means it's more hollow underneath. So that's what's gonna be up underneath the mat. You can still see some of the hydrilla and see how it's just dying off a little bit. You know, these fish are really gonna use this stuff now because there's more room underneath. There's more shad, there's more bait. And that's when, you know, the fish get to where they're really gonna be able to be caught. In the fall, everything's changing. Things are always changing. And one mat might be great for a week, but eventually that mat's gonna get smaller and smaller. So you might have a mat that's 5, 10, 20 times the size of your boat. It's a huge mat, but it's gonna get smaller and smaller the more wind you get and the cooler nights you get. So eventually, mats that were too thick 2 weeks ago will become the mats that are the best to fish. So it's always changing. That's the coolest part about it, is you have to stay up with what the fish are doing and stay up with what the grass is doing. And that's one of the big keys of frog fishing. There's a lot of different frogs out there, and I just try to keep it really simple. Most of the time, I'm gonna throw about 3 different colors. First off is probably gonna be like a bluegill color. Obviously, there's a lot of bluegill in these mats. Next, when it's really low light, I like that black or smoke colored frog. It works really well. It lets those fish really get a silhouette on it. If it's a little real thin mat, they can see it really well through cloudy days or, you know, low light first thing in the morning. And then last but not least is just a white frog. Simply just a white little bone frog. It's gonna look like a shad. But you know, color can really matter. So that white is gonna really resemble that shad really well. And you know, it gets those bites. Sometimes that might be the deal. So basically these 3 colors, I keep it simple. Those are the 3 colors I use. There's definitely times when each color will have its day. And so you really need to switch up and try to make sure that you sort of figure out what that color is that certain day.